Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
And today we're going to talk about a certain kind of gemstone that lots of girls like to get before they get married. Okay, some guys get them too, but mostly this is a woman thing, a girl thing. And yes, indeed, diamonds can be worn on other occasions, but when we think of diamonds, we usually think of engagement rings.
We do, and they can be kind of exciting for the ladies out there to get a diamond ring. They're quite expensive for the gents out there, though. They can be really quite a bit of cash, or even if it's credit, it's going to be expensive. So, yeah, it's something to definitely be planning about if you're dating someone you're serious about, trying to save your pennies, your nickels, your dollars, your NT dollars for that diamond ring. But we're going to talk about another alternative. But first, guys, we're going to read through today's lesson. Stay tuned.
Diamonds have long been symbols of wealth, power, and eternal love. The story of their popularity began in the late 1400s when European royalty started wearing diamond jewelry as a status symbol. However, it wasn't until the 1930s that diamonds truly became a cultural phenomenon. De Beers, the largest diamond company at the time, launched its famous A Diamond is Forever campaign, successfully convincing people worldwide that diamond engagement rings were an essential tradition. This marketing masterpiece transformed diamonds into must-have symbols of romance and commitment, and sales have been booming ever since. However, the traditional diamond mining industry faces serious ethical and environmental concerns. Most diamonds are extracted from mines located in politically unstable regions or areas with serious human rights issues. For example, blood diamonds are mined in conflict zones, and the profits from their sale are often used to fund armed conflicts. Furthermore, diamond mining takes a heavy toll on the environment. The process involves moving massive amounts of earth, which disrupts ecosystems and wildlife habitats. Open-pit mining can leave giant craters visible from space, while water used in mining often becomes contaminated with chemicals and waste materials. As a result, more consumers are calling for responsible mining practices. This growing demand has helped drive the development of lab-grown diamonds, which provide a more morally and environmentally responsible alternative. While natural diamonds take billions of years to form, these synthetic diamonds can be created in just a few weeks using advanced technological processes that replicate natural formation conditions. Despite being chemically identical and equally brilliant under the spotlight, lab-grown diamonds typically cost less than half the price of natural diamonds. Okay, let's get to it. Let's talk about these less expensive synthetic diamonds. Okay, so we're talking about the sparkly revolution of lab-grown diamonds. Now, if you see a diamond, you will describe it as sparkly. It kind of gives off sparkles of light, little reflections of light. I suppose if you're sitting next to a lake on a sunny day, it could be sparkly out there. Lots of little dabs of light out there reflecting off the waves. And so here we're talking about a sparkly revolution of lab-grown diamonds. I don't really think we use the word sparkly in this particular context that often,
No.
But they are using this because diamonds are sparkly.
Yeah, if they're really good quality and they catch the light, wow, can they sparkle. A revolution is a big change in something. It doesn't have to be a change in government. It can be a change in something in society or the way we produce or make things. And this is a big revolution. We're going to be talking about these lab-grown diamonds. Diamonds that are actually made inside a laboratory by people. So they're synthetic. We're going to talk about that. But first, we're going to talk about diamonds and what they mean. They've been symbols of wealth and power and eternal love for quite a while, but not forever. This is kind of a new idea, actually. The story of their popularity began in the late 1400s. And that's back in Europe when European royalty, the kings, the queens, the dukes, the duchesses, all of those folks, they're in a higher social class over there in Europe. They started wearing diamond jewelry because they felt like it was a great status symbol. A status is your level or where you appear to be in society. The elites or the royalty over there thought they were big stuff, very important people, and so they considered themselves to be in a higher social status than just the farmers or the merchants that were selling the things that they made or even grew. So they thought they were in a different class as people.
Right. So, of course, here in Taiwan, lots of people buy luxury cars as a status symbol or designer bags or whatever. That's a form of status symbol. I did want to say that the word status can be pronounced status, but Americans tend to say status. And yes, indeed, there are all sorts of status symbols out there, including diamonds. And that's what happened with European royalty, the royal families, the kings and queens, way back in the 15th century. However, it wasn't until the 1930s that diamonds truly became a cultural phenomenon. Okay, I think I understand that diamond rings weren't considered to be used, or at least diamonds weren't used in engagement rings before this time. Somebody else kind of pushed this concept on us, and we had no choice but to accept it.
They didn't actually wear rings a whole lot, Tom. So all of this is kind of new to our civilization, I guess you could say. But the diamond cultural phenomenon, their popularity really took off in the 1930s. But that's not when De Beers, the original company who went off to mine diamonds, was founded. That was in 1888. And it was founded by a pretty dastardly man. He wasn't a good man. He was kind of evil. And you can see that they came up with some really false advertising premises. They came up with ways to fool the consumer into believing this was something they had to have. And not only had to have, if they loved someone, you had to actually pay a lot of money for them. So it was kind of a crazy advertising campaign, you could call it. But this, it was obviously successful, though, Tom, wasn't it? Because up until this point in the 30s, the 1930s, people weren't buying diamond rings, and they were rarely even wearing them as a symbol of marriage. So it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, the thing is, the story went that there were a bunch of women at a party in Germany, and they accidentally dropped their rings in drinks there. And somebody asked, "Where are the diamonds?" And somebody said, "Oh, they're in De Beers." Okay, they're in the beers.
Bad joke.
Because Germans can't say the word "the." But no, this is actually a surname here, De Beers. And of course, it started promoting diamonds as something you need to buy for your lovely lady if you want to get married. And they created this famous logo, "A diamond is forever." It was their famous campaign. A campaign, of course, is a series of events or advertisements or whatever that are designed to reach some sort of goal. So, yes, this was probably used in all sorts of different places, in print advertisements. Back at the time, they were probably radio commercials, maybe even on TV as well. So it was part of their advertising campaign, and people bought it. They were convinced all over the world that diamond engagement rings were an essential tradition. And I think, yes, indeed, lots of women heard this advertisement, and she said, "Hey, boy, if you want to marry me, you got to get me one of those." And he had no choice but to comply.
Yeah, it started over in Europe and then, of course, went to America and then to other parts of the world. But it was a very successful campaign. In fact, they still use this line as their slogan, "A diamond is forever." It's still De Beers. So they're still out there. They're still around. They've been very successful. But I think things are going to change even more than they've already changed for this particular company, De Beers, that I consider to be kind of a bad company. Wait till you hear all the things they've done.
You better watch out. They might come and do you harm there for saying that.
Maybe. This marketing masterpiece, the campaign that they launched, transformed or changed diamonds into must-have symbols. We often use this adjective must-have to talk about something you gotta do or gotta see, gotta read, a must-read novel, a must-see movie, a must-go event. We use that a lot. So, yeah, they were very, very successful with their campaign, and the diamond ring became a symbol of romance and commitment Commitment is when you promise to do something. You're dedicated to something. If you're committed to your partner, it means you'll be faithful and loyal to them. You're going to use a lot of your time and energy making sure that they're happy and that your relationship remains very positive and successful, especially after marriage. And sales have been booming since this crazy campaign was launched. When you say sales are booming, it just means they're really doing well. They're going up. They're increasing very quickly. So things are successful if your sales are booming, and it sure was a successful campaign for De Beers.
I believe it still is a tradition. If you get married, you're supposed to buy the bride a diamond engagement ring. But I think this is changing, as we're going to talk about here. And here in the next paragraph it says, however, the traditional diamond mining industry faces serious ethical and environmental concerns. Okay, so if you want to have diamonds, you've got to dig them out of the ground. There are special places in the world that have these places. I think they had to do with volcanoes or something, and they were pushed up from deep in the earth to the surface. And if you know where to dig, you can find them. And of course, when you dig in the ground for something, that's mining. You might be mining for coal, for example. There were coal mines in, Hotong, I guess there was a coal mine there at one time. And yes, indeed, you're mining these minerals out of the ground. And yes, nowadays, though, the mining industry has some serious ethical and environmental concerns. So if it has to do with ethics, it has to do what's wrong and right. Ethical is similar to moral. I tend to think of ethical having to do with business practices, and moral is more about personal behavior in life.
Yeah, I agree. The ethics, usually we talk about if we're talking about rules and regulations, conducting yourself outside, with other people and also in business, as Tom said. And then moral is personal. Are you doing the right thing or the wrong thing? But ethical means, is it right? Is it fair? Is it fair to other people? That's a big part of being ethical. So most diamonds are extracted from mines located in politically unstable regions that are having difficulty keeping the people happy for various reasons, or areas with serious human rights issues. And a lot of these diamonds, of course, are mined in, for example, the South African area of the world, where they've actually abused people there for decades and decades trying to mine diamonds. If you extract something, you take it from something else. For example, maybe you have a tooth that's hurting and you go to the dentist and he says, we got to pull that tooth. Another word for that is to extract. I got a tooth extracted yesterday.
Indeed. And of course, sometimes diamonds do come from these places where there are serious human rights violations, and that's probably not good. I think a lot of women think, well, what does that have to do with me? Okay, I just want the diamond, but I think nowadays people are getting more ethical or moral about these things.
Hopefully.
And they're thinking about other alternatives, maybe, as we're going to say, synthetic diamonds. I've also heard of people using gemstones other than diamonds. I think you and I both know somebody whose engagement ring was actually an emerald, which is a green kind of gemstone. I suppose you could use rubies or sapphires or opals or whatever.
They're
Those
beautiful.
are other choices. Indeed, I like the blue color.
I do.
That is pretty cool. And I don't think they're as expensive, but some of them actually are. I think emeralds are actually more expensive than diamonds.
They can be, yeah.
So check into that. And you can mix and match different colors for your wedding. You don't have to always have a diamond. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for the first part of our lesson. Let's take a break now and listen to our Chinese teacher.
Hello everyone, 我是 Patrick 老师。今天讲解的是6月26号 Unit 15。这个单元有2天的课文内容。在开始前，我想问大家有没有听过“钻石很久远，一颗永流传”这句广告词呢？其实这句话是有英文版的哦。英文版是 A diamond is forever。我个人是觉得中文听起来感觉呢更印象深刻，大家同意吗？这句话呢其实是 De Beers 这家公司呢在行销企划当中想出来的。好，那我们一起来看学习重点吧。好，请看到第一段的第2个句子。其实钻石当然这项矿物很早就存在了，但真的受到大家注意呢，是最早 要推到呢15世纪末期。好，所以 their popularity began in the late 1400s。好，再来，那真的要说变成所谓的文化现象是什么时候？ It wasn't until the 1930s。原来要到20世纪的30年代。It wasn't until。那这个呢是属于我们知道 not until 就是直到怎么样才怎么样嘛，所以就是一直要到了20世纪的30年代，钻石才真正好。这是属于呢 not until 的另外一种变化型，这是属于分列句、强调句，特别把时间点拉到前面来做强调。再来，请同学看到第5个句子。第5个句子要请同学看 This marketing masterpiece 所指的，请问 marketing masterpiece 所指的是什么呢？就是前面的 A diamond is forever 这样子的广告词，这样的行销企划，转变了钻石的形象。怎么说呢？ Transform diamonds into must-have symbols of romance and commitment。 那大家不再觉得这个只是尊贵而已，而是把钻石跟我们所讲的承诺还有爱情做了连结。好， transform A into B， 请同学特别熟悉 transform 转变这个词的用法。好，那第2段的第1句这个地方呢是我们下面的段落的主题句。怎么说呢？传统的钻石采矿业目前呢面临了大众对于在伦理上、道德上还有环境上的关切 ethical and environmental concerns。 下面的句子就是在充分的告诉我们所谓的 ethical 和 environmental concerns 是什么。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. We are on our trend unit, and we're talking about the evolution of diamonds. We used to spend a lot of money and time digging diamonds out of the ground, and now we're looking at growing diamonds in a laboratory, which has done a couple of things. It's brought down the price, which is wonderful. The diamonds are gorgeous. If you haven't seen lab-grown diamonds, go to a store and ask if they're carrying them. You'll be surprised at how beautiful they are. They're perfect looking. And also, it's gotten people away from some of the unethical practices that we've seen go on around the world, like blood diamonds. Maybe you saw that film when it was out with Leo DiCaprio. They really abuse people in the areas where they mine diamonds. They pay them very little, and it's very hard work. And it also ruins the land where they're mining. So there are a lot of things to consider.
Indeed. Okay, so again, we talked about diamonds being extracted from mines that are in politically unstable regions. And we've got an example here. We've got blood diamonds. They're mined in conflict zones, as you were just mentioning there. And the profits from their sale are often used to fund armed conflicts. Okay, so this can happen in certain places where war is going on. It does not mean that the diamonds are actually red or that blood was actually dripped on them for aesthetic effect or whatever. No, it just means that they were mined in places where people are actually dying in wars, and they actually are spilling blood as a result of this violence. And yes, indeed, the money from the sales, the profits from the sales, are often used to finance or fund these conflicts, to buy weapons and things like that.
Yeah, you know the globalists all want us killing each other. That's the way they make all their money. And so to make it even worse, De Beers was not only mining these diamonds and charging a fortune for them, they were encouraging these people to get into these wars, and it would make the diamonds even more expensive because they're coming from a really conflicted area. It's dangerous to mine them. There are so many problems with mining diamonds over the past couple of decades. It's we don't have enough time to talk about all of the awful things that were done. So yeah, they are often mined in conflict zones, and then those profits then were used to fund more conflicts because that's how the globalists make their money, is funding wars and killing us. So it says, furthermore, diamond mining takes a heavy toll on the environment. It really hurts the surrounding land. It involves moving massive amounts of earth. Massive means really, really big. And if you've ever seen these open pits, they're pretty ugly looking. They look terrible. And that's how they're mining the diamonds. When you move that much earth or much dirt, soil, it disrupts the ecosystems and wildlife habitats. You're disrupting all of the land where these wild animals live, not just the big ones, the insects, the things that we need to fertilize our soil and make the food that we grow good for us, healthy for our bodies. So it really messes up. What's an ecosystem, Tom?
That's a system in which we've got all sorts of things going on, and they depend on each other, like plants growing, and then animals eat those plants, and then the animals are killed for meat, and then people eat the meat, and then they excrete things from their body, which goes back into the ecosystem. So it's kind of like a cycle. And yes, indeed, when they move the massive amounts of earth, that will interrupt the ecosystem and cause problems there. And then, of course, wildlife will suffer. Their habitats disappear and the animals can't survive. You get the picture. Now, here in the next sentence, it says, open pit mining can leave giant craters visible from space, while water used in mining often becomes contaminated with chemicals and waste materials. Mm-hmm. So there are different ways to mine things out of the ground. You can have a traditional mine in which you dig a tunnel into the earth. Like I said, in Hotong and places like that, they had the traditional mines where they, just dug a tunnel into the earth. But here it's an open pit mine where it's just a big, large area, and they just move the dirt out of the way and mine them from the mine that's actually facing the open sky there. So that's a different type of mining. But that can leave these giant craters, which are visible from space. Now, a crater is a large, round shape. If you look at the moon, of course, you'll see lots of craters there. This particular crater was not formed by an asteroid striking the surface of the Earth millions of years ago. This is just a crater that is made from these open pit mines.
It's really, really big. So the water that's used in mining often becomes contaminated with chemicals and waste materials. If it's contaminated, it's polluted in some way. It's something that was clean becomes infected or polluted by something else that's dirty or even harmful for us. So you don't want to have anything that's contaminated, spoiled, polluted, tainted. Those are all synonyms. Chemicals from factories often contaminate our rivers. It rolls into the river and that water there is then contaminated. So we have to be careful to keep our water clean.
Indeed. And of course, lots of times people think, well, it's happening over there in Africa or places like that. That's their problem, not ours. But we, of course, need to be ethical and worry about the health and safety of everybody on the planet. Now, here in the final paragraph, it says, as a result of these problems, more consumers are calling for responsible mining practices. So people know these things are going on. Both men and women are concerned about this. Yes, we want to have a lovely wedding. Yes, I do want to have a big diamond ring on my ring when I get married.
On my finger.
On my finger. Yeah, I said on my ring. A ring on a ring. That might be interesting. But in any case here, yes, people are getting concerned about that. Well, I don't want to, have this diamond if somebody had to die for it. So yes, indeed, people want to call for or they want to have responsible mining practices so the earth is not harmed and people are not killed as a result.
So because of the problems, a lot of folks out there who are morally conscious, ethically conscious of other people, they're saying, hey, we need another way to have diamonds, to make diamonds. We had something called zirconia diamonds. They've been around for a long time, but they look fake. I can look at a zirconia diamond and can see that it's not real.
Like kind of yellow or something?
No, they're white, but they're a little bit too plastic. So this lab-grown diamond has made a lot of progress. It looks really real. So natural diamonds supposedly take billions of years to form. That, of course, is supposed to drive up their price. But these synthetic diamonds can be created in just a few weeks using advanced technological processes. If something's synthetic, it's made by or made through a chemical process. It's usually made to replicate or copy something else that exists naturally. So we have synthetic fabrics that we can make our clothes out of, like polyester as opposed to cotton or linen. So these only take a few weeks to produce, and they replicate, copy natural formation conditions. Formation just means how something is made, how it's put together or arranged, a form, formation. You could also call it a shape or structure. You could talk about soldiers or people in a parade and their formation, how they're standing together and marching together. That's their formation.
Or you can see ducks migrating and they're flying in formation in that V shape. That's a formation. So yes, indeed, they need to replicate these conditions. I guess it has to do with heat and pressure and things like that. Diamonds are made from pure carbon that are bonded very hardly, or very
securely?
Securely, that's a good word. They're bonded securely to each other. And so then diamonds are also considered one of the hardest substances in the universe.
Yeah.
And despite being chemically identical and equally brilliant under the spotlight, lab-grown diamonds typically cost less than half the price of natural diamonds. So even though they are not chemically identical, or at least they are chemically identical to each other, the diamonds and the artificial ones, they're identical, they're exactly the same. You might have identical twins, for example, if they were from the same egg, I believe it is. If they're from different eggs, then they are fraternal twins. But if they look exactly alike, they're identical twins.
Yeah, they actually are both really brilliant under the spotlight. These lab-grown diamonds, the really good benefits of these are that they cost less than half the price of natural diamonds. And again, you're being much more ethical and environmentally conscious if you're buying these lab-grown diamonds. I kind of like to go and take a look at them. I haven't seen any lab-grown diamonds in the past couple of years. So I want to see what kind of improvements that they've made. But the fact that they're half the price is really appealing.
Right, but if I were a woman and I wanted my fiancé to buy me a ring for our engagement, I think I would prefer, as you said, a sapphire or an emerald or a ruby. Diamonds, they're white, they're kind of boring, at least to me, personally. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Let's listen now to our Chinese teacher.
那第二个句子前面的段落，第二个句子所说明的呢，就是 ethical 这部分了，因为呢会涉及到说没有人道的对待采矿的工人，那有这个名词叫 blood diamonds， 就是血钻石。好，那这些血钻石常常收益都是用来做什么呢？ Fund armed conflicts。Fund armed conflict 用来资助，这里 fund 是动词，用来资助呢武装的冲突，所以会有道德的争议嘛。好，那再来，请同学看到第六个句子。第六个句子这里呢，则是呢在讲生态环境方面的破坏 ，open pit mining， 露天开采会在地表上面留下巨大的坑洞。好，那甚至于呢，在太空当中是清晰可见的。好，这个就是环境方面的破坏了。所以第二段的第一句是我们的这个主题句，整个第二段充分说明了 ethical and environmental concerns。接着请看到第三段，第三段的第一个句子 ，As a result, more consumers are calling for responsible mining practices。好，因此造成了什么样的影响？消费者所担心的是环境道德这方面，所以他们就希望开采的做法能够负起责任 responsible mining practices。 好，那有哪些方面呢？产生的变化，我们看到第二个句子，因为消费者希望不要再破坏环境，那不要呢对于这些人权有任何的破坏。好，所以就 this growing demand helped drive the development of lab-grown diamonds。 因为消费者这样子的诉求，所以呢促进了所谓人工钻石、人造钻石的发展。好，那我们看第三个句子，请同学特别注意到的这个 while 副词连接词呢，在这里我们不要把它翻成虽然，但是它其实是一个鲜明的对比。 因为呢，前半部说到天然的钻石要几十亿年才能够生成，要几十亿年才能够生成 billions of years。那后面呢所讲的是合成的、人工的 lab grown 也就是呢在实验室他们所做出来的这些钻石怎么样呢？ They can be created in just a few weeks， 只要几个礼拜就能够生产完成了。那 while 就可以连结这样子鲜明的对比。我们中文通常都说而，像前面就讲了，天然钻石呢要几十亿年才能够生成，而合成的钻石呢，只要几个礼拜就能够生产完成。以上就是我们针对人工钻石这一篇文章第一天内容所做的中文讲解。See you next time.
Okay, we're at the end of our lesson about lab-grown diamonds or synthetic diamonds, but there are more things to talk about, so we will do so in our next program. Make sure you join us then. And until then, you could also check out our content on YouTube and Facebook. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.